Hi everyone, I'm Revitya Nabila Kusuma, and I will present you my thesis, The Effect of Stabilization Policies in Poverty, Empirical Study of BRICS and Many Countries. Stabilization policy is a government action to manage economic fluctuation. It has been a catalyst for governments across the globe to stabilize their economies, control inflation, and promote economic growth. Three policies, according to Robert Mondale, are fiscal, exchange rate, and monetary policy. Where fiscal focuses on government spending and taxation, the exchange rate policy focuses on maintaining a stable exchange rate, and the monetary policy focuses on regulating money supply and interest rates. A country should balance these policies so they can stabilize their economy, promote growth, and reduce the level of poverty. Beside the stabilization policy, globalization also plays a role in poverty since it promotes economic growth and job creation. The effects of globalization may vary around the world. It is determined by a country's specific circumstances. With the ability to influence global trade and investment patterns, BRICS and mid countries are seen as the key players in global economy. The BRICS itself account for around 40% of the world population and 30% of its GDP. Despite their great economic and political potential, the BRICS and MED countries have a huge challenge on poverty. Stabilization policies can have a strong influence on poverty reduction. This involves policies initiatives to boost income, education level, and social safety nets for vulnerable populations. Countries like Turkey and Brazil have succeeded in reducing their poverty through their stabilization policies. However, not all policies have been equally effective. For example, the Indian government stabilization policy did not result in a significant poverty reduction. Considering these inconsistent results, I aim to answer the research question. What are the nature and the strength of the moderating effects of monetary, fiscal, and exchange rate policy on the relationship between globalization and poverty in BRICS and many countries? So I set four hypotheses. The first one is globalization has a negative effect on poverty. The second is globalization negatively impacts poverty, and this effect is strengthened by retributive fiscal policy. The third is globalization negatively impacts poverty, and this effect is strengthened by the expansionary monetary policy. And last, globalization negatively impacts poverty, and this effect is strengthened by the exchange rate policy. After figuring out my research question, I collected secondary data from the reliable sources such as OECD, the World Bank, and IMF. Relevant variables are used, including export of goods or services as the independent variable in quarterly data from year 2000 quarter 1 to 2019 quarter 4. The data used are from OECD, the World Bank, and the Global Economic Prospects. Hence, poverty as the dependent variable measured based on the poverty headcount ratio, where the higher value signifies more challenging poverty. The quarterly data provided by the World Bank and the United Nations will be used. Next, three stabilization policies are used as mediator. I employed government expenditures as the fiscal policy, where it measures money spent by the government on goods and services. Central bank policy rates as the monetary policy, where it measures monetary market rates and exchange rate policies, using paper by Izetsky et al. Measuring index of fixed and flexible regime throughout the year. Last, as a control variable, I use FDI, literacy rate, and unemployment rate. On the right side, figure 2 represent the quarterly exchange and export of goods and services. In the year 2000, quarter 1, export of goods and services ranging from about 6,000 million USD to around 51,000 million USD have significantly increased for most countries except for Nigeria and South Africa in 2019 quarter 4. In particular, India's value of goods and services export in 2019 quarter 4 is 575% higher than its export of goods and services in 2000 quarter 1. On the other hand, figure 3 negatively impacted by the economic and social environment, including global economic instability. All BRICS and main countries, except Brazil and South Africa, have succeeded decreasing their poverty rate from 2000 quarter 1 to 2019 quarter 4. Interestingly, Brazil showed a massive downturn in its poverty rate during the 2008 crisis, and the number bounced back almost as huge as its slips in 2009 quarter 1. This research uses regression to conduct the empirical analysis. The estimation equation of the study is as follows. Equation 1 to 4 represent different models exploring the relationship between learned poverty as a dependent variable representing a measure of poverty, various moderation variables, and three control variables. In the first equation, ln xit is the natural logarithm of the independent variable representing the export of goods and services. FDIIT is the control variable for the foreign direct investment. Literacy IT represents the control variable for literacy rate, and unemployed IT is the control variable for the unemployment rate. Beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, and beta 4 are the regression coefficients, which quantify the relationship between each respective independent variable and the dependent variable. The term mu I represents the fixed effect capturing country-specific characteristics that may influence poverty. Last, sigma IT is the error term, accounting for unobserved factors and random variation in the metals. Equations 2 to 4 introduce additional moderating variables and their interaction terms to examine the combined effects. In this model, LUN-GOV IT is the moderating variable representing government expenditure, LUN-CBR IT as the moderator variable representing central bank policy rate, and RIT is the moderator variable representing exchange rate policy on poverty, while retraining the control variables FDIIT, literacy IT, unemployed IT, with I as the country specific and T as time. With the quarterly dataset of BRICS and MENS countries ranging from 2000 to 2019, a panel data has been created. The descriptive statistics of the dataset are presented in the table 2. According to Phil 2018, the data can be considered normal if it has a skewness between -1 to 1 and kurtosis between -3 to 3. Based on this formulation, it can be seen that data on poverty, the exchange rate, FDI, and the unemployment rate are considered normal distributions. Meanwhile, export goods and services, government expenditure, and literacy rate data are right skewed and leptokurtic distribution. On the other hand, we can see that central bank policy rates data is normal skewed and leptokurtic. When generating a regression model, a parameter estimations are influenced when one independent variable collides with a combination of other independent variables. This phenomenon called multicollinearity. Mukaka 2020 set a multicollinearity criterion of 0.8 in this study. If the correlation coefficient is more than this threshold, multicollinearity is assumed. We can see in the table 3 there is no correlation of independent variable coefficient that is greater than 0.8, indicating there is no possibility of multicollinearity. Next, I did a VIF test to again check the multicollinearity. Steen 1995 set a criterion of 10 and above as a multicollinearity. Based on table 4, there is no variable that is considered as a multicollinearity. After determining to use fixed effect as it can deliver a more robust result, I utilize the model's outputs to determine the study hypothesis result. Hypothesis 1 states that globalization has a negative effect on poverty. This hypothesis is supported by Table 5, model number 1, where a 1% rise in BRICS and MENS countries' export of goods and services as a globalization variable will result in a 0.14% decrease in poverty. This interpretation is accepted at 1% significant level. Thus, hypothesis 1 regarding the negative effect of globalization on poverty is accepted. Hypothesis 2 states that globalization negatively impacts poverty, and this effect is strengthened by retributive fiscal policy. The second model of Table 5 shows that fiscal policy, in fact, has a positive effect on strengthening globalization positive impact on poverty and is significantly accepted in 1%. According to the calculation, a 1% rise in BRICS and main countries' government expenditures as the variable of fiscal policy will result in a 0.09% increase in poverty. With this conclusion, hypothesis 2 regarding fiscal policy strengthening the negative impact of globalization on poverty in BRICS and main countries can be rejected. Hypothesis 3 states that globalization negatively impacts poverty, and this effect is strengthened by the expansionary monetary policy. This can be assessed using the third model of the calculation. A 1% rise in BRICS and main countries' central bank on monetary market rates as a variable of monetary policy will result in a 0.000003% increase in poverty. With this conclusion, hypothesis 3 regarding monetary policy strengthening the negative impact of globalization in BRICS and main countries is accepted. Hypothesis 4 stated that globalization negatively impacts poverty, and this effect is strengthened by the exchange rate policy. This can be assessed by the fourth model of Table 5, which shows a positive effect and it's significantly accepted at 1%. According to the calculation, a 1% rise in BRICS and main countries' exchange rate policy will result in a 0.00000328% increase in poverty. With this conclusion, hypothesis 4 regarding exchange rate policy strengthening the negative impact of globalization on poverty in BRICS and main countries can be rejected. Since all fixed effect models are significant at the 1% confidence level, I will use the highest outcome of the adjuster S square to select the most optimal model to use. Consequently, with an adjust with an adjusted R square value of 0.558, the third model is the best fit. Based on analysis conducted, it can be inferred that the central bank policy rate as a key component of monetary policy hold the utmost importance from all stabilization policies influencing impact of poverty. Conclusion. This study examined stabilization policies' impact on globalization and poverty in BRICS and MENT countries from 2000 quarter 1 to 2019 quarter 4, where central bank rates, government expenditure, FDI, literacy rates, and unemployment significantly affects poverty. India, China, and Indonesia reduce poverty through exports. Stabilization policies are important for poverty reductions. The contribution of this paper it addresses gaps in understanding stabilization policy effects in current global context. It examines BRICS and main countries to provide insight for emerging economies. It seeks to uncover mechanisms by which policy impact poverty. Next, the limitation, the data quality issues and potential inconsistencies. There is a limited data access beyond 2000 in developing countries. There is a lack of quarterly statistic for some variables. Also, the recommendation for further research. They need to expand and validate findings with a broader range of variable for better reliability. They need to combine quantitative and qualitative methods for a comprehensive understanding. Also, they need to recognize limited generalizability and call for more in-depth context-specific research. Here are the appendix of the BRICS and MENS countries profile, and that's it.